Hey there, Weirdos. It's Thursday again. My name is Mackenzie, and as always, I am joined by...
I'm Chris.
And I'm Sarah.
And this podcast is for Weirdos. Okay, do you want to know what we're talking about today?
I would love to know what we're talking,
talking
about
about?
today.
Today, we are talking... It's a haunted location.
Ooh.
One of the most notorious haunted locations in the country. We're talking about Eastern State Penitentiary.
Oh my God.
So,
That's crazy.
tell me what you know about Eastern State before I go into history. And stuff.
Literally, all I know is that it's in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
It's near Philly, right? Or in Philly? Okay.
Yeah.
It's in an eastern state.
I hate you.
It's a penitentiary. I know nothing.
Great.
Yeah.
You're going to learn so much.
All I know is where it is. I'm sure I've seen it
Right.
on
Paranormal TV show.
on Paranormal TV show, but it's not one of those that like left a big impression on me. Oh. Wait, maybe. There's a Ghost Hunters episode about it.
Yeah.
But there's a Ghost Hunters episode where they went to a penitentiary and they caught a fucking insane shadow figure, and I don't know if that's here.
I think it is.
Amazing. Okay, so that's what I know about Eastern State.
Okay.
Maybe.
So-
I don't remember.
That's fair.
Eastern State Penitentiary is in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Initially, it was just outside the city limits. Now it is well within downtown Philadelphia.
Okay.
Oh.
It was
Because the city
grew.
growed.
It opened in 1829.
Oh.
So it was in operation from 1829 to 1971.
Oh, wow.
That's a long
It's
time.
a long time. Over 100 years. 140 something years.
1829 to 19.
71.
Almost 150.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It was America's first penitentiary.
Oh.
Penitentiary, the word,
Mm-hmm.
or the style of prison that it is, was created by the Quakers.
Oh.
The intention was that by being in this prison, they would be penitent and go, become closer to God.
I was
like-
today years old when I learned that.
Yeah. So they were.
That's
the
crazy.
intention was that for them to repent and be penitent for their sins.
That's
So they had a very ethical you are going into prison. You are going to learn to be a better person.
Yes, they
was
wanted
the goal.
Was the goal. Well, the
Yeah.
goal was to. It was a very modern, reformed
Right.
view of what prison should be, especially at the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's still a bold statement to make today. To be like, prison should be places that people go to make them better people.
And I'm
Right.
gonna go through the whole. There's a lot of history.
Right.
Buckle up, y'all.
Yeah.
So sorry. I visited Eastern State Penitentiary this summer.
Yeah. Mackenzie
So
went.
I went there.
Mhm.
It's obviously no longer an operating prison.
Mm-hmm.
It is a museum,
Which is cool.
which is really cool. It's a National Historic Landmark. And I'll get into it more later, but they also have a haunted attraction there that runs in the October times.
okay.
Okay.
Okay, so Eastern State opened in 1829. Most of this history is slightly paraphrased from the audio tour transcription that you take when you go to Eastern State. So when you go to Eastern State to visit, you get given an MP3, an audio guide thingy, and a pair of headphones, and you walk through the major cell blocks, and each stop has an audio thing.
Oh, cool. Is it
s-
included with the tour?
Yes.
It's not extra.
It is not. That's how every person gets a tour.
nice.
There's also the option when you go there to do a guided tour.
Yeah. Right.
And they have, once you do the main tour, at certain times they'll open bits that aren't constantly open. They'll do small groups. So they'll have a guide that's like, hey, at 3 p.m. So while we were there, one of them opened up the chaplain's office. So we got to go in there, and that space is actually one of the few AC'd spaces.
Oh, nice.
Philadelphia is a pretty temperate place. It still gets hot though.
Right.
Yeah. Especially in the summer.
We were there in July. It was hot.
Yeah.
So I drug my friends with me. They're amazing.
I love
because they're not they like history. They are not us
They're not
level
spooky.
of
They're not
and,
or history.
And you know what they do? They go for me.
Yeah,
So
which is great.
I'm very thankful for them.
I love when places include an audio tour in
Yeah.
admission.
And
I
also,
hate when audio tours are extra.
Guess who narrates?
Who?
Just take a gander. Well-known actor, male actor.
David Tennant.
No.
American?
Yes.
Harrison Ford.
No. Sarah gets 2 guesses, and then I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
Hank Azaria.
No. One more.
The only other name that's coming to mind is Bruce Willis.
No. Steve Buscemi.
Oh, Steve Buscemi! I love him!
He's the one that narrates their
That's
audio tour.
amazing.
Hell yeah.
I love that man.
So anyway, once you do the audio tour, they'll open like the chaplain's office, or they'll take a small group down the hospital wing. Because basically, what they've done is they've done some stabilization of the building, but they keep the building what they call stable ruin.
Yeah.
So it is not being rebuilt. Some of the areas have been reconstructed a little bit, just for the safety of people going to tour the building.
Right, but it's not like being restored.
But there are places that they keep locked and closed off from the public because they're basically what they've decided is they want people to see it as it is,
right.
in stable ruin. From a conservation standpoint.
So good.
So they're not like Ship of Theseus-ing it.
No.
Yeah. No.
It's in stable room. That's pretty cool.
Which
I
is,
really like that from a museum perspective.
Really
right.
Like that's neat.
Yeah.
So the building was designed. So anyway, to go back to it, what a lot of my history comes from paraphrased audio tour bits because they take you from opening through closing of the prison. Like they take you through the whole thing.
Through the whole history.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And their website, because it's a museum website, they want you to come visit.
Yeah.
Right. It doesn't
have
tell you everything.
But that you can also listen to their main 10 audio stops on their website.
Ooh.
That's cool.
Obviously, they're catered to being in front of
A thing
the
that you're
building,
looking at, right.
But you'll get the context that you need.
That's really
cool.
cool.
And I have pictures that I took while I was there that I will show you guys as we go through.
Cool.
So it was a building designed to inspire penitence or true regret in the heart of criminals. The architects here believed that all human beings, regardless of their behavior, have good in their hearts. They believed Eastern State Penitentiary would inspire a new generation of prisons worldwide built on this optimism and the faith in the human character. On the inside, Eastern State was progressive, even visionary. Now, on the outside, this building looks like a fortress. It is very tall, very castle-y, has arrow slits.
Why does it have arrow slits?
But that's
can't fit people out.
the facade.
Okay.
So on the inside, the walls are not as tall as they look on the outside.
Oh.
The battlements that are on the top wouldn't actually do anything.
Okay.
Like they're like you could step over them kind of thing. But it was designed to look scary on the outside.
So you didn't want to go there.
So you didn't want to go there, but not be as bad on the inside.
That's pretty neat.
That is neat.
So we don't want people to have to come here, so it's going to look scary, but on the inside it's like yeah, and also you have to remember the time frame that it was being built in, the 1800s.
Right.
So mid 1818s. So the state of Pennsylvania, to build this prison, this place, they had a competition.
Oh.
So state of Pennsylvania held a competition, and a $100 prize was awarded to John Haviland, a young British-trained architect. He was faced with a huge challenge, holding hundreds of prisoners in strict solitary confinement. So the way that they determined that they were going to be penitent is they were by themselves. They didn't interact with anybody. And it's interesting, every cell has a skylight because the whole point was that you would talk to God. So each prisoner had their own cell. They did not share cells initially. It's an 8 by 12 foot cell. It has a bed, a workbench, and a cast iron toilet that was flushed with water once a day. Now, when
1800s.
When the president didn't have flushing potty.
Right.
Remember 1800s. New, when it was brand new, the cell blocks had a striking church-like appearance. The cells had wooden floors and a high arched ceiling, almost like a chapel, with a round skylight called the dead eye. The back of each cell had a small door. It opened into a walled exercise yard, slightly larger than the cell itself, but open to the sky. So they have a model, but there's no door that connects to the central corridor.
So how do they get in?
They get brought in from the outside, locked into the exercise yard, and then they can only come in and out of the door of their cell when it's opened once a day.
Yard. Okay.
So when you're in there, you're standing in the corridor facing the cell.
Gotcha.
The doors that are there now, so that it's a sliding wooden, there's your standard jail cell door and then like a sliding wooden door. Okay. Those were added in the 1850s. So the connection, the openings to the actual central corridor were added in the 1850s. Originally, there was just a small opening called a feeding hole through which the meals could be passed to the inmates. Originally, the only way into these cells was through the exercise yard door. The cells were heated by a furnace located in a small a small shed at the end of each cell block.
Okay.
You can see it again on the model. Haviland designed a prison system that would allow each prisoner to be kept completely isolated from his neighbor. So the other part of the reason they did this, jails at the time, jail was not new. This was not, penitentiaries were new, jails were not. They were just big holding pens for people. Lots of people, lots of contact, all of these things.
Right.
Yeah.
Which leads to a lot of disease.
Yeah.
So by doing this isolation, no more crowds of thieves and prostitutes. And hopefully they were also stopping outbreaks of things like typhus, which they called jail fever at the time.
Right.
What put you at Eastern State? What crimes would you commit?
How do you get there?
How do you get there? What do you think?
What are you thinking?
I was just thinking about typhus.
About when that time you had typhus?
The time that I had
you had
typhus.
Victorian little boy's disease?
Yeah, the time that I had fucking prison disease.
Yeah, dude.
So
Good
one time,
job.
Chris caught typhus.
And by one time, we mean like a year and a half ago.
No, it was like a year ago.
Yeah, right.
It was last January.
And we made fun of him for it.
We did. We bullied him. We were like, of course you got Victorian little boy
Well,
disease.
I
I
got
got typhus from petting cats.
He was sick, and we were like,
He was sick and he didn't know what was wrong with
he
it.
was like, I don't know what's wrong with me. He
then
goes
he
to
went
the doctor, and they
doctor's
go,
like,
you have typhus.
we think you have typhus.
No, that was the third trip to the doctor.
Yeah. Anyway, because he kept going, I feel like I'm getting better, and then I'm not better. And we're like, dude, keep going to the doctor. I
Go to
don't know what
urgent
to tell
care.
you. And then the third time he sends us this long Snapchat video, and he goes, they told me I have typhus.
They
and
think
we
I have
went-
typhus, but it's going to take a long time for the test to come back, but they gave me the medicine anyway.
Yeah.
And Linda, who's a doctor, went, I guess those symptoms make sense.
How did he get typhus?
It was really funny. Anyway, the most common crimes that might land a person at Eastern State were robbery, burglary, same but different.
Burglary just means that there was somebody there
Yeah.
when you did your robbing.
Horse theft,
Oh, specific.
forgery, and murder.
Murder.
Typical sentences lasted only about 2 years, with a few were longer, and only a few were longer than 8. At that time, there weren't anything like life sentences.
Oh.
And if you were condemned to die, you weren't going to get sent to Eastern State. You were going to get
You're
sent
just
to a
gonna be-
different prison.
So these are not hardened criminals. These are not like murderer or like big bad murderers a lot.
Correct.
It's mostly you stole some
let's,
shit.
Let me tell you about Eastern State prisoner number 6.
Oh.
Okay.
His name was John Curran.
Okay.
He was a 22-year-old white gardener. He was convicted in 1829 of stealing his neighbor's horse.
Mm-hmm.
He received a 2-year sentence and was fined 6 cents.
1800s.
1800s.
When he arrived, this is what they did to everybody. So don't think this is just like a one-off.
Right.
When he arrived, they placed a hood over his head so he couldn't get a sense of the layout of the penitentiary and so that no other prisoner would recognize him after his release. He would wear that hood whenever he was outside of his cell. In the 2 years he spent here, it's in cell block 1, is the most original, obviously,
Correct. That makes sense.
cell block.
Mathematically. You would label that
John
one?
Curran may never have seen another inmate.
Oh.
Wow.
Curran spent 23 hours a day inside of his cell. He was not allowed to speak to anyone except the chaplain or the guards, who were called overseers.
Yeah.
He slept in his cell. He ate 3 meals a day in his cell, and he worked there as well. Prisoners made chairs, some wove fabric, and others dyed cloth. An overseer
I could get into that.
named Alan Fisher taught John Curran to make shoes. In that cell, you can see his shoemaking tools.
Oh, cool.
I don't know if they're his specifically, but they are shoemaking
There are
tools.
shoemaking tools.
They're
in the
period
cell.
shoemaking.
Yes.
tools.
John Curran was allowed to keep only one book in his cell,
The Bible.
the Bible.
The Bible.
The Bible.
He could read. Most prisoners could not.
Oh.
He would receive no letters from home, no newspaper, no visitors. Curran received 2 half-hour breaks a day. He was allowed to go through the iron door at the back of his cell out into his exercise yard to breathe fresh air and feel sun on his skin. Once every 2 weeks, maybe 3, he would be taken from the yard to be bathed.
Once every 2 weeks.
Yes. And so not only was the rule at Eastern State isolation, it was also silence.
Oh. I could never go
There
to this
were 20 inches of masonry separate each cell.
Wow.
And the guards walking the corridors wore wool socks over their shoes to muffle the sounds of their footsteps.
prison. They're serious.
The warden's journal, it doesn't tell me which warden, records the punishments given for breaking the rule of silence. January 27th, 1835, I discovered that 6 prisoners had been talking through holes made alongside of their hot water pipes. August 11th, 1840, female convict 1050 confined to a dark cell on bread and water for disorderly conduct, shouting and disturbing the other prisoners.
Oh.
June 27th, 1833. I don't know why they're not in order. That's
Okay.
fine. Number 102, having on several occasions got the men next to him talking and being detected in the act. Last evening, I ordered the straitjacket and the gag. The gag was an iron gag that went over your tongue, and if you tried to move your tongue at all, it would tear up your tongue. It like buckled behind your
I like that we
head.
were like, wow, this is really progressive, and now it's just like, nope, it's horrible. Bad
Yep.
prison. Horrible bad prison.
In the gloomy solitude of this, this is a oh my gosh, an inmate's quote.
Okay.
This last one. In the gloomy solitude of a sullen cell, there is not one redeeming principle. There is but one step between the prisoner and insanity. His name was James Morton.
Oof. Poor James.
So,
I get the idea of like, oh, we're gonna make this place where like the goal is for them to repent, be penitent, like, get in touch with God, fix their, apologize for the bad things that they did to the Lord,
Yeah.
and then after they're done, they'll leave. And then that on paper sounds great. And then
Yeah.
you go, yeah, but if they talk, we're gonna put a piece of metal in their mouth and it's gonna cut their tongue up.
Yeah. Oh, God. I mean, like, that's just fucked up. That's fucked up.
Yeah.
okay.
Tell us more. That's fucked up. Tell me more.
So John Haviland, architect.
Architect.
Yeah. Envisioned a prison laid out like a hub and the spokes of a wheel with 7 one-story cell blocks radiating from this central point.
Okay.
An overseer could spin from the middle of the rotunda room and see down all of the corridors.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
That's
So
pretty
when
cool.
you enter, you come in through cell block 1 up to
The hub.
the hub.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cell block 1 was the first wing completed. Cell block 2 housed female prisoners until they left in 1923. So both male and female prisoners were held at Eastern State.
Okay.
Cell block 3 later became the hospital block. There's on the gate that's there. There's like a red cross.
A red cross.
Built into the gate. It's not a sign. It's built
Right.
into the metal. Fun fact about their hospital block: Al Capone was a prisoner at Eastern State for about 8 months. He had his tonsils removed there in 1929.
Good for him. Good for his
So-
tonsils. His tonsils haunt that prison.
That probably sucked.
John,
Getting your tonsils removed in jail.
Yeah.
actually, I will tell you more about their hospital block. It was very progressive for a jail hospital.
Right. But they were not giving him banana smoothies, I don't think. After
Probably
his
not,
tonsils were
but like, it's
No, he
fine.
didn't get to eat pudding.
no pudding, no ice cream.
So John
Ouch.
Haviland's original architect plan would have only held 256 inmates,
Okay.
which is, even for that time, a shockingly low number of prisoners. The state was like, bump those numbers
We need
up.
more room.
So with cell blocks 4, 5, 6, and 7, they built 2-story cell blocks.
Okay.
I have a picture of the model in the room that shows the full, like, completed penitentiary as of 1836.
Okay.
It's a 10.5-acre place,
Complex.
Pretty big.
complex,
Yeah.
surrounded by a half-mile of wall.
Wow.
So
That's
a lot of it was open space. It was very
Mm-hmm.
wide open. So the system of isolation developed by Eastern State became known as the Pennsylvania system. And it was people liked it a lot. It was met with great enthusiasm, especially in Europe and the European colonies. A steady stream of government officials traveled to Philadelphia to study this building and roughly 300 prisons on 5 different continents were modeled after Eastern State.
Great.
With its enormous scale, the remarkable systems of running water and central heat, and the revolutionary system of prisoner isolation, Eastern State became a tourist attraction that surpassed people visiting Independence Hall.
Oh my God.
That's weird.
That's
Including one of the visitors was Charles Dickens.
Hey.
He had.
Shout out Charles Dickens.
Do I have the quote there? I don't. That's okay though.
Charles Dickens was like famously like a very like
He did not
Christian-
think. He did not think Eastern State was doing. He thought they were driving people mad.
okay.
So he
Interesting.
did
him.
not agree with it. He did not agree with the isolation aspect of Eastern State.
Right.
Okay.
So
Fascinating. I guess what else do you do? What else do you do in the 1800s other than
Right.
like,
There's no TV.
parade
podcasts to listen to.
philosophers?
So, they also have cell blocks 12, 14, 15.
Oh.
I don't remember if it goes all the way, like, I don't remember if there's like a 9, 10, 11. I don't remember.
So are they separated from like the
other number.
others that the original 7 that are like connected to that rotunda you were talking about?
I believe so.
They're
Okay.
separate. Okay.
Yeah, they're kind of like,
They're their own thing.
yeah.
Okay.
Hold on. Where's my
But there's no 13.
No, there is a 13.
Oh, okay.
In the original rotunda, you can see cell blocks 1 through 9.
Okay.
And 8 and 9, you go down the same hallway, and then it kind of like
It makes
loops
like
off.
a Y shape.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I think, but I know for sure there are 12, 13, 14, and 15.
Okay.
Okay.
10 and 11,
Who knows?
I'm a little unsure, and that's my own
Maybe they
fault.
just disappeared. Maybe they knocked them down.
So,
Maybe there's black mold.
Who knows?
cell block 15 was often called death row
Oh.
because inmates awaiting execution were housed there or in cell block 1.
I thought that were there executions
on,
performed?
hold on.
Okay, sorry, that's my bad.
There were never any executions at Eastern State.
You.
However, and then as the date of the execution approached, inmates were transferred to the State Correctional Institute at Rockview. Then they
Got
were
it.
executed.
Okay, so they were executed elsewhere. They were just held at Eastern State.
Yes.
Because it was
So-
already solitary.
So by 1940, so within 100 years,
Uh-huh.
Eastern State had become a maximum security facility with inmates serving life sentences and even death sentences. But they lived in Eastern State.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go back into this, but in 1971, So 50-ish years ago,
Yep.
they locked the doors, walked away, left everything as is.
Did they let the people go?
Yes, all
Okay.
the people were gone. They didn't leave people.
And when you said that, I was like, and they left them there to
I was
die?
like, did they?
No.
What happened to the people?
Okay, so they had transferred all the prisoners elsewhere.
Yes.
And
then
so
they just locked
so
up and
starting in the 60s,
Uh-huh.
the state of Pennsylvania started phasing prisoners out of Eastern State.
Okay.
And then in 71,
They closed it.
they closed
it, fucked off.
walked away. And then in the 90s, so 20 years of rotting had happened
Yeah.
and pillaging and different things.
Graffiti.
Local teens.
Yeah, local teens. So hence the stable ruin, because people
Right.
had come through. I mean, it was
And buildings just kind of fall
fall
down.
up, yeah, without
Yeah.
general maintenance.
Right.
And it was over 100 years old when they closed the prison. It was
Right.
130 years old or whatever, 140 years old when they closed the prison.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So the different people give these like audio quotes. They have inmates that give their actual like testimonies, correctional officers, different things on this audio tour. So you're hearing people that were
People's
actually in
voices.
those spaces.
Yep.
So one of them,
We love first person accounts.
his name was I don't know if he's still alive or not. The thing goes, my name's Dick Fulmer.
My name's Dick Fulmer.
He was a correctional counselor. He was a social worker at
Oh, cool.
Eastern State. He was there from 1966 until 1970. So one of the most unusual prisoners Eastern State have. I'm talking about kind of notorious prisoners of Eastern State. One of the most unusual prisoners was Pep, the cat murdering dog.
Hang on.
One more time.
Pep, the cat murdering dog.
They had a dog?
Hold on.
Mackenzie?
How do you
Pep,
spell that?
P-E-P.
Pep.
Like pepper?
Yes. Pep was a black Labrador Retriever who was admitted to Eastern State Penitentiary on August 12th, 1924.
It's my birthday.
Yeah.
Happy birthday!
Like
100 years ago.
70 years before you were. 100 years ago.
70 years before you were born.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Prison folklore and records tell us that Pennsylvania Governor Gifford Pinchot sentenced Pep to life without parole for killing his wife's cherished cat.
All dogs go to prison, I guess.
Hold on. Prison records support the story, and his inmate number C-2559 is skipped in the prison intake log. The governor, however, tells a different story. The story is Pep was used as in the state of Maine. The governor of Maine had instituted a prison dog to help with morale of the prisoners, and had mentioned to Governor Pinchot, hey, I did this at one of the prisons in Maine, and it seemed to have really good success.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe this would work for you.
Right.
And
at
so-
this very remarkable prison. Maybe
Yes.
you should have
World's
a puppy.
first. The therapy dog.
Yes. Not world's first, but
Yeah.
he was basically a prison therapy dog.
Early days.
And so the bit was
He was a prisoner.
he was a prisoner, and the wardens and stuff thought it would be funny to take a mugshot photo of him, and it's actually one of the things they sell still is like it's got Pep's mugshot and stuff on it.
Can we get an art print of that
I'm sure
for the office?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure
I would
we
like
can.
one.
I would love to have.
And what's
Pep's
hilarious
mugshot.
is Pep looks real fucking guilty in his little mugshot.
He says,
He's got-
"I did it."
He's got sad ears. He's kind of like,
He said, "I did it, and I know that I did it, and I'm sorry that I did it, but now I'm in prison."
but
They
like
go,
there was so much
"Pep," and he goes,
backlash.
"Whoa."
There was so much backlash when they first incarcerated
Incarcerated a
Pep
dog.
that like people were sending fuming letters, free Pep to the governor, and the governor finally had to be like, "Listen,
joke.
it's a
They're,
joke."
God.
they're sending hate mail.
They're sending hate mail
they
to the
were
governor. They're like,
sending-
"I'm never voting for you again."
Yeah, they were sending the governor hate mail over a dog being put in a prison.
Okay, but
I would.
What's new?
I would.
What's
mean,
new?
100%. If I found out that
Americans have always been Americans.
if somebody
it
put a
seems.
dog in prison, I would be like,
Free him.
free that dog.
Dogs can vote. Dogs should vote.
Okay. Okay. So another notorious prisoner that Eastern State had was named William Francis Sutton. He began his career in crime with a burglary at the age of 9.
Oh.
By the 1930s, 40s, and 50s, Slick Willie was his name, had become one of America's
Hell yeah.
most notorious criminals. He was a flamboyant bank robber and escape artist and was often called the Actor because sometimes he dressed up as a mailman, messenger, or even a police officer when robbing a bank.
I've heard of him.
Good
It
for
is
him.
often reported that when asked why he robbed banks, Sutton replied, because that's where the money is. But it is worth noting that he spent his entire life denying ever saying this.
He's like, I didn't say that.
He was arrested for the machine gun robbery of the Corn Exchange Bank in Philadelphia in 1934 and was sentenced to 25 to 50 years at Eastern State Penitentiary. While here, Sutton tried to escape on at least 5 occasions.
Of course he did.
His final attempt was on April 3rd, 1945, when he joined 11 other inmates in a tunnel escape from cell block 7.
Ooh, tunnel.
He was caught within minutes, only 2 blocks from the penitentiary. Sutton wasn't surprised by his quick capture. In his official statement after the escape, he told prison officials that when he got out on the street all wet, he was all wet and muddy. He looked back, saw his own muddy footprints down the street, and knew he was in trouble.
He went,
Shit.
God dang it, I got muddy feet.
Yeah.
That's when you kick your shoes off.
Yeah.
Kick your shoes off and run.
You find a puddle to walk through.
And pray.
You go, I'm getting out of here. Well, clearly he wasn't praying enough in prison, in the penitentiary.
Yeah.
He wasn't being penitent.
I mean,
Those skylights didn't work.
They were also no longer isolated at that point.
The
Had
penitent
roommates?
The penitent man shall pass.
It was too many. There were
Yeah.
too many people that needed to be there. They all got cellmates at one point. They all
So did they get to talk
yes
to their cellmates?
Yes.
Okay, so like the rules got
the rules
Looser.
different.
in the
By the 1900s, they'd kind of dropped a lot of that.
yeah. Listen, once they started having to room people together, they went fine.
I guess you can talk, whatever.
Like the early iteration, the original intent was yes, silence, and then it just wasn't feasible
They were
anymore.
like, we need too many people in this.
Yeah.
There are too many people breaking too many laws.
They also, by this time in the 30s, 40s, they had in the cell blocks 4 plug-in radio station holes.
Oh.
So they had radios. They could pick. They had their little cord
Yeah.
or
Right.
whatever. I don't remember. They didn't have the actual cords in there, but they had their like radio cord. And in the wall, they could pick one of the 4 channels.
Listen to the radio.
That's
listen
cool.
to the radio, and that would include, sometimes they had. I don't remember if there were TVs in their cells or at some like old school TVs or
Right,
whatever, but they would watch some of the old television shows because I mean, remember this prison operated until the 70s. Like it's
Right.
not. It's closed down in pretty modern era. People that were held there are still alive.
Right.
Yeah.
So, in the late 1930s, there was a inmate. His name was Clarence Kleindienst, and he was serving a 5.5 to 11-year sentence for burglary, larceny, and forgery, plus the remainder of a previous sentence for which he had been paroled. Everybody called him Kleiny. His initials, CK, are carved into the walls of one of the courtyards.
Oh. The my courtyard.
You can.
I don't know why I'm making them all southern. They're from Pennsylvania.
Yeah. You can still see them in the wall.
That's cool.
When you go.
That's pretty cool.
We spent like 5 minutes going, where the fuck?
I want to see.
That's when you like
We were
put like a
it-
tape circle
well,
around
it
them.
it tells you kind of where they are, but they're old, so they're kind of faded. So you're really
You're like, where are they?
So he worked as a plasterer. He worked in stonemasonry
Okay.
as his job in the prison. Everybody still had jobs in the prison.
Your job is to fix the prison.
And that's basically what his job was to replaster cells and
Right.
walls and stuff.
So it makes sense that he would carve his initials into the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So sometime in the mid-1940s, Kleine used his reputation as a quiet guy and a good worker to get himself transferred to cell block 7, cell 68.
Okay.
That is the closest cell to an exterior wall.
What was he
Once-
in prison for?
Burglary, larceny, and forgery.
Okay, so not like harming a people, just
No.
like theft.
Once he was there, he used his mason tools and his knowledge of stonework to begin digging a tunnel.
Hell yeah.
So
I love a tunnel. I love a prison tunnel.
it's still there. You can still see it.
Oh.
And in 1945, Eastern State's most famous escape took place from this cell block. He lived, it's the last cell on the left, 68. He was trusted by the administration because he was a good worker. First mistake.
Good. He was doing good behavior.
He had the job of fixing the plaster and stone walls around the prison. Kleine asked the warden if he could re-plaster his own cell. The warden agreed. While working in the cell, he began digging a tunnel in the wall, concealing the hole behind the wooden panel. Archaeologists excavated the tunnel's entrance in 2005. The entrance to this tunnel, very narrow.
Yeah.
Like, it would have been a tight squeeze for us.
Right. But we're healthy individuals. He was in jail. He was probably real skinny.
And also, it was the 40s. Everybody was tiny.
Yeah, they were little people back then.
After about a year of digging, the tunnel was nearly completed. It extended 15 feet down, 97 feet across to Fairmount Avenue, and then 15 feet back up. It was equipped with lights, reinforced with wooden bracing. You walk out. They identified the path of the escape tunnel with GPR, ground penetrating radar. And today there's a painted line that traces the track of the tunnel.
Oh, that's cool.
That's fun.
So
Did he make it out?
hold on.
Okay.
Again, the same tunnel escape that Slick Willie was in, this was what Kleine did. So on April 3rd, 1945, Kleine and his cellmate William Russell broke through the ground because Kleine hooked his little cellmate in with him and went, "We're digging this tunnel.
Let's go.
Get on with
We're
it."
getting out of here.
So they
We're
broke
getting out
through
of
the
here
ground,
in a year.
and then 10 inmates caught on and joined their escape efforts. One of them was Willie Sutton. Sutton was caught within minutes, only 2 blocks from the penitentiary. He later claimed public credit for the tunnel's design and construction because
Good.
Of course he did.
that's his thing.
He's like,
Slick
I did
Will.
it. It was me.
Kleine was captured about 2 hours later,
Ugh.
and then they added an additional 3 to 6 years to his sentence.
That's
So
what
they went-
happens.
They went, "We know you did this."
That's what happens when you try to get out. Well, it was in his cell.
Yeah. And then
That's what happens when you're the stonemason.
Yeah.
Another prisoner named James Grace surprised the guards when he returned to the penitentiary early on the morning of April 11th. He rang the doorbell and asked to be let back in. He was hungry.
He said, I can't make it on my own.
So
Actually, can I have a sandwich?
All 12 inmates that escaped were eventually recaptured, and then the staff filled that tunnel in with ash from the incinerator.
Okay.
Not people,
okay. Thank you.
trash.
I was like,
Stuff. Like trash and stuff.
yeah, yeah.
Trash and doo-doo and stuff.
Yeah, makes sense.
No, they have flushy toilets.
They had flushy toilets.
So just
They had
trash.
flushes.
Just garbage.
Garbage, wood.
I'm a fan of
Chris looks at me with panic as though I'm telling him they put
dead people
people's
in there.
ashes
You know,
in
I was
there.
like,
I love a prison escape story. They're very fun, but also like I'm like, if you did a crime and you go to jail, you should stay in jail until you're done being in jail. It's fine. You're just gonna get in more trouble. But also, they're so like
They're
the
so
ingenuity of humanity of like, I'm getting out of here.
yeah, I don't want to be here. I'm gonna
I'm
leave.
leave.
Getting out.
But also,
I'm
I
leaving.
love when it's like, and then 2 minutes later, they were all caught. And then one guy went, I'm hungry.
After a year and a half of digging a tunnel,
They tried real hard, and then
they
if
got
hadn't-
caught in 2 minutes.
I bet if nobody had really said anything, those two probably would have gotten away.
Right. If it had
So-
just been the two digging the tunnel, they would have
Yeah.
made it. But because there were fucking 10 of them, or 12 of them.
So I forgot to write down which cell block this was in.
That's okay.
They did have punishment cells because
It's a
maximum security
prison.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to say this might be in 13, 12 or 13. I don't remember.
I feel like it would make sense for it to be 13.
Down the stairs, which this part of the prison was not a part of the prison I got to access
Okay.
while we were there.
Mm-hmm.
So this part of the audio tour may have been rewritten, and the transcript may just not have been republished.
Right.
Got it.
I think it's one of those like smaller side things you can go see.
Yeah.
It was 4 small cells with low ceilings and no plumbings. This is the revamped, redesigned version of isolation for Eastern State.
Okay.
Obviously, the use changed drastically over time. In the 20th century, it was used as punishment. Isolation was. Prior to that, it was just the basic philosophy of
Right.
Of
the prison. At every prison, punishment cells are called the hole. That's inmate slang for
Right.
solitary.
Right.
And then at Eastern State, this area was also called the Klondike. I don't know why. Don't ask me. I don't know. It did not tell me.
What would you do for a Klondike?
Interestingly, so as the prison changed over time,
Mm-hmm.
they still had access to the exercise yards.
Mm-hmm.
So as time changed, some of them got like roofed over and became little workshops or
neat.
places. Like sometimes they got to have a pet in their exercise yard or
Aw.
plants or have like a little garden kind of things. Like they tried to let them use them for morale
Right.
stuff. In the hospital block, they had tuberculosis, like we talked about with Waverly Hills, ran rampant through
Yep.
all of America.
Yeah.
Struggled with tuberculosis.
Yeah.
Right.
If you don't know that, you should. You have not read a history book.
If you don't know that, you didn't listen to Waverly Hills.
Well, you didn't listen to Waverly Hills, and you must not have gone through 7th grade history because
Yep.
Yeah.
you get taught about TB real early
Yeah.
in American education.
Yeah.
Maybe not everything about it, but you learn about it pretty quick.
Yeah, you learned there was a big bad TB outbreak in the early 1900s.
And that's why you get
TB shots.
TB shots.
Yep.
Still to this day.
So you get vaccinated. Don't touch rusty nails.
Anyhoomst, they transformed some of the exercise yards.
That's not TB.
That's tetanus.
That's tetanus.
Fuck.
TB is a skin disease. And,
Yep. And a lung disease.
Yeah,
disease.
I know this.
because I had to get, for sailing, they make you, like modern day sailing,
Yeah.
you have to get a TB skin test
Yeah.
every certain number of years
Yeah.
because it is
Mom,
such a...
Mom used to have to get TB shots and tests because of being a doctor.
Yeah.
Like I've had to get a TB shot pretty recently.
Yeah. Anyway, it's
Anyways.
not the one that is rusty nails. That's tetanus.
That's tetanus. The other T.
the other T.
It's the other T vaccine.
Not typhus.
No.
You've had that.
You can't vaccine that.
Nope.
Anyway,
Sorry.
they turned they knocked down the wall
Mm-hmm.
between the cell and the yard
Okay.
and turned them into solariums
Oh, cool.
Oh.
in their hospital wing.
Mm-hmm.
So
For
when
the
they had
tuberculosis.
for the
Yeah.
so then they could still have the outside sun and
Mm-hmm.
fresh air that they needed while remaining in prison
Yep.
And isolated.
and isolated. So they were doing all of the right things for tuberculosis. And
Right.
again, part of the original design of the prison was to stop outbreaks of disease.
Because the prisoners don't interact with each other.
Well, if you're thinking about it from a business perspective, if all of your people die,
Right.
And you can't make money.
Then you can't make
Yeah.
money. And why have you built this building?
Right.
Is this a for-profit prison? Or is this a public prison?
It's a public.
Okay. It's a
It's-
state-owned,
It's yeah.
state-operated.
It's now operated by.
well, yeah, it's a museum now.
It was a state.
State
Eastern
prison.
State. It was
It's
operated
State
by the state
Penitentiary.
Yeah.
of Philadelphia. It was built. It was all done through the state of Philadelphia.
Got it.
Pennsylvania. City of Philadelphia, state of Pennsylvania.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You
Sorry.
knew what I meant. In the hospital. So, like I was telling you guys earlier, I got to go in the chaplain's office. They also did a small tour of the hospital wing.
Okay.
They don't let everybody go through the hospital wing all at once because it's stable ruin. Like
Yeah.
you have to limit how many people are in there at a time. It was very spooky to go into the hospital wing, whatever. I just had a
Hospital.
Wing wing.
because they take you out to the yard
Mm-hmm.
and then bring you in the back side. So you don't come
Okay.
in, you don't go in it from the rotunda. You come in it from the back, and then you walk down to the rotunda. And that, like, them closing the gate behind you,
Spooky.
very disconcerting.
You're like,
I
what
was like,
have I gotten
oh.
myself into?
Oh no!
I'm stuck here now.
Is this where I live?
So
Am I
in-
in prison?
So they
Am
had a
I the
very
prisoner?
well done hospital for a prison, in my humble opinion.
Mackenzie's humble opinion.
So they had a you can see in this picture, this was one of the hospital suites. You can see the solarium doors leading out
Wow.
to the yard.
Oh, cool.
So
We will post that on our
you
Instagram.
will see all of these pictures. They had a hydrotherapy department
Oh, that's cool.
in there. They were progressive for the mental health stuff at the time of this prison. So they had an x-ray room. They were one of the first prisons to have like a full x-ray suite.
That's cool.
Oh,
And they
nice.
had prisoners that worked in, like, they had the doctors and nurses and stuff, but they also had prisoners that helped with medical stuff.
That makes sense.
Nice.
They had a physiotherapy department. They had a lab, like a laboratory lab for medicine and stuff like
for
that,
blood and stuff.
for blood and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They had a psychiatric department. Again, not saying any of these were great in their actual care, but
They existed.
from a perspective of the time and it being a prison, the fact that they had any of these
Is impressive.
is
Pretty great.
very impressive. They actually had a full OR suite.
Oh wow.
oh, cool.
They took us in there. Some of the only things that remain, because remember, people went in there in the after 1971 and
Right.
stole
Shit
Yeah.
got looted, man.
one of the things they could not steal was the original OR light, because it's attached to the ceiling,
Ooh.
and so they have
That's crazy.
Isn't
I
it?
want one.
That's spooky.
I want one for my house.
and you can see
Change
in
the big light in here for windows.
you can see in some of the areas where like trees have started growing in through the building and
That's
stuff
so
like that.
cool.
So they also had they had the very first operating prison synagogue,
Oh.
because they had at one point they had about 35 Jewish prisoners.
Mm-hmm.
So they had a synagogue,
I almost said Jewish patrons.
um,
People do not patron
a prison.
Patrons
prison.
of the prison.
They
you
are prisoners. They're not there willingly.
So I don't have any pictures of it, but it's very fragile archaeologically, but they've recreated or kind of constructed the synagogue as it would have looked when the prisoners were there.
That's cool.
They also had obviously a chaplain, the chaplain's office. I think he was Protestant because it was Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
But they had that. They played baseball and football and because they had all this outside space. So
Right.
they played sports. They had people worked in the kitchen. They had a really nice kitchen. They had black prisoners, white prisoners, Hispanic prisoners. They were a very mixed population. Now, when you go there, they have this big graph that demonstrates very
The demographics
of prisons overall and how they've changed
Interesting.
with not just the U.S. but other countries.
That's such
it's
a
really it's out in the middle of the yard, so it's like this giant graph that you can go up to, and they have things to continue to add as decades pass.
See, that's what we love to see. We love to see the ability to grow.
And then they
I'm
also
so
have
excited.
they have this. I don't remember what the exhibit is called off the top of my head. It's on Eastern State's website. I think it's one of their like kind of permanent exhibits.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, it takes you through the change in prisons and prison reform. So that shows you news clips and general incarceration stuff, and then it's just like it takes you. It's kind of it's a combo interactive and informative exhibit.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, you walk up to this. You walk through a doorway. You watch these videos. You don't have to, but there's videos for you to watch, and then you walk up.
I 100% would be.
Yeah. It's very odd because in my head, it's not old, but it's got like Obama administration on prison reform. I mean, it comes to modern era, but like,
Right. That doesn't feel like it should be in a museum yet.
yeah, it was just, and it like all of it makes sense, but it's like,
right.
I mean, it goes through all of Obama's administration, early first Trump administration. Like it moves all the way through very modern. Like they're constantly updating this exhibit.
That's actually really cool.
Really neat.
Anyway, you walk through this hallway into this doorway, and at the exhibit, it's got this split, and it's like, have you ever done any of these things? And you would go this way. Have you done any? Like, have you not done whatever? And you go this way, and it's like, what would be the likelihood that you would get sent to prison for these things?
Oh my god. That's so cool.
It's really cool. And then you can like
Whoever their exhibit designer is, like little.
Exhibit
then
designer for Eastern State Penitentiary, you're probably not listening to this podcast, but if you are, hugs and kisses to you, man.
They do like you can write your own confession of like something you may have done that would have like you don't have to label it, but like you have the ability to like write a confession.
You can
kind
say,
of thing.
I committed a crime. Or I punched my brother and I feel bad about it.
Yeah, like
I
things
punched
like
my
that.
brother and I didn't feel bad about it.
I want my dog to get arrested.
So it's very their mission is prison reform
Right.
and like
Educating people about
educating
prisons.
people about
So cool.
what prisons could be today and what prison reform really should look like and how the justice system needs reformation. It's a wonderful.
I want to go there now.
I wanna
need to
go
go to
there.
there.
We should go back to there.
I would like to go to there.
I want.
They have Al Capone's cell is recreated as it
Would have been.
He was only there for 8 months.
Right.
But people like Al Capone.
But Al Capone's a fun
fascinating.
criminal.
So
He's a draw.
he's a draw. Let's talk spookies.
Spookies.
So obviously they have their haunted attraction.
Which is so cool.
It's called
I
Halloween
love-
Nights at Eastern State.
I love places that are haunted that also do haunts.
Yeah.
And some of the cell blocks, I think cell block 12 for sure, they transform different cell blocks into different haunts.
That's fun.
That's
so
so cool.
So like when I looked at their Halloween website for this past year, it had like 5 different haunt blocks or whatever.
That's fun.
So we maybe should go at that time because obviously during the day, the museum is still open as normal. And then at nighttime, you do.
But I don't want to go to a haunt. I don't like haunted houses.
Okay, well then we can go whenever.
Okay.
I don't like haunted houses either.
I mean, we could go that time of year, but I don't want to go to the
Okay.
haunt. We can send Kristen by
So
himself.
first,
By myself.
By yourself.
I don't want to go by myself.
first I'm going to read to you off of Eastern State's website, from their FAQs.
Ooh, great.
So the first question one of the questions, they have a lot of them. This is pretty far down on their list of FAQs.
Yeah.
Is it haunted?
Yes.
It says, many people believe that Eastern State Penitentiary is haunted. As early as the 1940s, officers and prisoners reported mysterious visions and eerie experiences in the ancient prison. The penitentiary has been featured on Travel Channel's Most Haunted Live, Ghost Adventures, and Paranormal Challenge, Fox Television's World's Scariest Places, TLC America's Ghost Hunters, and MTV's Fear. Footage captured on the second tier of Cell Block 12 by paranormal investigators during the filming of Sci-Fi's Ghost Hunters may be the most controversial ghost sighting in history. During the filming of Paranormal Challenge, host Zach Bagans called Eastern State Penitentiary one of the most haunted places in the world. Jack Osborne, host of the Travel Channel's Portals to Hell, agreed. After filming the series, he noted, Eastern State Penitentiary really freaked me out. This place is terrifying. Easily one of the most haunted places I've ever been. Now,
Zach does say that about like every place he goes.
Okay, but
I
this
do
is,
like Jack Osborne though.
I think that episode of Ghost Hunters might be the thing that I think it is.
You are.
That's crazy.
And then the other question is, can I do a paranormal investigation? Paranormal investigations, including the use of EVP recorders and other pieces of paranormal investigation equipment, are not permitted at Eastern State Penitentiary. While we know this is an area of interest for many, our mission drives our work. At this time, we are focusing our resources on maintaining and expanding programs that explore the penitentiary's history and connections to contemporary criminal justice reform. Eastern State does not allow third parties to conduct unauthorized events or sell tickets to the general public. Any persons conducting unauthorized events will be asked to leave the site without a refund.
Yeah.
So, any of the TV shows that Eastern State has been on is, my guess, going to be before 2014.
Yeah.
Or 2010.
Yeah.
Somewhere before the early 2010s.
Right.
So
their focus is not the paranormal. Their focus is education and prison reform.
Yeah.
When talking about most of their stuff does not have anything to do with the paranormal. However, there is in Cell Block 3, one of the displays, a picture that is reportedly haunted.
Ooh.
The
I-
picture is haunted?
No, the picture is of
A haunt.
a haunt.
A ghost.
Got it.
A specter.
So,
Ooh.
first, before I show you guys the
picture.
picture, Ghost Adventures, since they mentioned the shows that
Right.
Eastern State has been mentioned on, Ghost Adventures went to Eastern State in 2008.
Long time ago.
It was season 2, episode 6.
Long time ago.
So, back to, I think all of their reform happened after 2010.
Yeah.
I think part of that was, one, because a lot of paranormal locations in the 2010s moved away from letting their paranormal stuff be the draw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
like
makes a lot of sense.
2010 to 2020 was kind of when a lot of places
Diverted.
backed away
Yeah.
from the paranormal lean and leaned
And
back
especially,
into the
I think if
history.
they were, I think as a museum, they were trying to
Right.
really upgrade and lean.
Right. They were trying to get more legitimate
Notoriety.
as
Yeah.
a museum.
Yeah. And as a historical site. I mean,
Yeah.
Right.
like it makes a lot of sense from our other background in museums. Like everything
Yeah.
they're doing.
Yeah,
Makes
I do
great
not. I
sense.
do not fault them for that. A lot of places that are like trying to get more serious and like, I bet what happened is they brought in more museum professionals,
And they
Yeah.
went,
and
here's
they
what
went.
we need to do."
We need to pick a mission and we need to focus on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then after we have focused on that, maybe we can revisit this kind of idea
Right.
as a way to
One-
get people here.
Once there's more
For that
resources, we can divert a little bit more resource to
Yeah. So,
like a fun project. But
So I rewatched the Ghost Adventures episode.
I'm so sorry.
It was painful.
rest in peace.
Rest in peace, Mackenzie's soul and spirit. She had to watch a whole episode.
And what's
Apparently,
funny,
she muted it for a lot.
I had to mute for a lot of it because I just can't handle Zach Bagans' energy anymore. And I say that as somebody that used to watch
about
these
to say,
religiously when they were coming out.
which
This
is
with
such
the show
a good,
I used to watch.
such a good growth for you. Like good for
it was
you.
my ghost show. I watched it as a comfort show. I watched it all the
Right.
time.
I mean, when
could
I go
quote
back
the
and
damn
watch
thing,
when I go
like-
back and watch the old episodes of Ghost Hunters, I have to watch them on 2x speed. Otherwise, I'm like, I can't handle
Yeah.
this.
So, and in the his name is Sean Kelly. He was the director of interpretation at Eastern State for a long time. I don't know if he's still there or not.
Yeah.
He was there for a long time because his name is all over the audio tour, and
Right.
that version of the audio tour that I used for stuff was through 2019.
Okay.
So
He's been there for a while.
he may still be there. He may not be there anymore. However, he did show Zach, Nick, and Aaron their actual death ledger. And they were using the gloves. You can tell that this is in their.
They're taking
They're-
This
care
is
of
a
it.
collection
their
item.
it's a collection item that's not out. So
Yeah.
a couple of the things that they got to see, you're not going to see on display
Right.
when you go, but it is things they have records of. So where they, and a lot of the people that they interview, they talk to Sean Kelly, their director, a lot, but then they also just talk to a lot of witnesses, or what I'm guessing people at the time that were allowed to do paranormal research at
Right.
the prison prior to the change
Yeah.
in structure. So in cell block 3, which is again the hospital cell block, there's lots of reports of your standard residual haunts because you have to remember people did serve life sentences there, so old men died there. There
Right.
was a lot of
Life sentence means you die in prison.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're not leaving alive, you're leaving dead. Tuberculosis was a thing there.
Yep.
Other jail diseases were a thing there. Suicide was common. It's a prison. Suicide
Right.
was common. Unfortunately, murders happened there.
Right.
It was a maximum security prison for a lot of its time.
Right.
So it was a violent place. A lot of people died there. I don't have exact death numbers. I don't.
Right. It's an old prison. That's not an easy number to get of like how many people died
Yeah.
there.
Exactly.
And variations of reasons for dying. Some
Right.
peaceful, some not. Anyway, in a cell block where you have people that have life sentences and was the hospital, you're going to have a lot of residual. So you hear things, people banging around. It's a prison. You're going to hear a lot of screams, rattlings, shuffles.
Yeah.
It's a prison.
Prison noises.
Prison noises.
Generic prison sounds.
So there is a quoted ghost that was seen by a locksmith in the 90s.
Neat.
So it was a ghost of a prisoner that killed a guard. I
Oh.
don't remember when. It would have
Right.
been sometime, I'm guessing in the late 1800s, early 1900s. Because the guard, the prisoner worked something in sewing with the big sewing machines. Disassembled a sewing machine. When the guard came to unlock his exercise yard, he attacked the guard and killed him
Right. I
with
remember
parts
that
from
story.
with parts from a sewing machine.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So that ghost was seen by this locksmith in the 90s.
The prisoner or the guard?
The prisoner.
Oh.
Because he was trying to pick the lock and kind of looked up through the opening in the yard door
And saw.
and saw a ghost.
That's crazy.
He's
ready to get you with
Yeah.
his sewing machine
In-
parts.
In cell block 12, they were in it's a prison. They have prison bathrooms. They were talking to a woman that was a paranormal investigator or something that worked through there.
Right.
She was touched on the booty by
Not the booty.
by a something
Right.
in the bathroom.
A ghoul.
A dirty man who wanted to touch a booty without permission.
Probably. So touching in various blocks, cell block 12, the second floor of the second floor of cell block 12 is where ghost hunters captured apparition evidence. They went there in 2004, but I'm going to get back into that later. Zach and Nick and Aaron did catch EVPs. They went into a couple of. They were obviously because they're closed in the prison. I'm sure they had some boundaries, but they were allowed to go in
Right.
places you don't normally get to access.
Right.
So like one of them, they did have like a weird. They called it the mad chair. I don't remember if that's what the prison called it or if Zach was just being Zach. But it was a chair that they strapped people into, like if they were having episodes. So
Yeah.
if I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure that's just like history of the prison that they try not to talk too
Right.
much about because there was torture there.
Right.
Yeah.
I
It's
mean-
a prison from the 1800s.
Yeah.
They put metal in people's mouths.
Right. Like, not that Eastern State shies away from their own sordid history, but like,
Right.
Right.
it's not something that is necessarily the most public.
Right.
Yeah.
So Zach, Nick, and Aaron do catch some EVPs. Al Capone said that he was being haunted by a victim of the St. Valentine's Day massacre while he was in prison at Eastern
Oh.
State.
That's fascinating.
So of course Zach tries to
Get that.
provoke
Yeah.
and taunt because that's all Zach does, which is just very upsetting for me.
Are
every
you
time.
upset that you were murdered on St. Valentine's Day? Are you upset that
I
on
need
this
you to-
day of
you're-
love
I
that
need
you were
to stop.
killed?
Please stop. I'm uncomfortable.
Sorry, I'm too good at that.
So they did capture evidence. I'm
Right.
not.
No,
and and I'm not going to discount. I got weird vibes while I was there.
Yeah.
Right. Look,
Like-
here's the thing. Ghost Adventures captures a lot of evidence. I just don't agree with their methods.
Yeah.
And I think that Zach is very silly.
It's like, yeah, you can get evidence in that way, but like,
There's other
damn,
ways.
that sucks.
Yeah.
And I think anyway, I did not watch the Paranormal Challenge episode. I think I have seen it in the past, so I remember
Right.
bits and pieces from
Yeah.
it. Not enough to like quote.
Right.
But Paranormal Challenge, for those of you that didn't catch Waverly Hills or don't know what that TV show is, it was where small groups of various investigative teams would get sent in with a time limit to in a location. They would get split up to various parts, and it was their job to catch as much evidence as possible in their
Right.
time limit.
And
And
it was 2 teams of 3, and they had the same equipment.
yeah, and the better evidence they got, you won the challenge. Whatever. It was kind of a silly reality TV game show spoof on Paranormal Activity, which could be cool if done correctly. I don't think it was done correctly, so it kind of flopped.
Yeah, it just didn't do well. It was also like
The mid 2010s.
it was a weird era.
So let's talk Ghost Hunters.
Let's
So
do it.
Ghost Hunters goes to Eastern State in 2004. So 4 years before Zach goes.
Right.
Ghost Hunters go. The
That's
task
season
crew.
1.
It's yeah, and I couldn't find that episode anywhere.
It's that season is hard to find. Season 1 is like not on anything.
It's like season
I
1,
like them.
episode 5 or something like that. Episode 4 or 5.
yeah, it's super early. I googled it when you were like, I can't find it anywhere, and I was like, let me see if I own it. I don't.
It is. I do recall it is the episode where "Run, Dude, Run" or whatever the phrase
Brian.
is. That was coined at
Dude
Eastern.
Run.
Dude
So that
Run.
is that is the one with the thing that I'm thinking of.
Yeah. So in Ghost Hunters, there's a shadow figure that Brian, the cameraman.
Brian.
Brian.
Oh no, it was so their team is like Jay and Grant are the main guys, and then there's Steve, who's like kind of their tech guy early on, and then they have Dave and Brian. But if it's that early, I don't think they have Dave Tango yet.
No, it was Dave.
It was Dave. Okay.
Yeah. Somebody, Dave or Brian, sees a shadow figure. I think that's where Dude Run comes from.
Yeah.
And he takes the fuck off. He's
Yeah,
like,
Brian is the one who yells that.
okay, well, I think they were together.
Yeah.
Brian books it. He's
Right.
out. They supposedly debunk that as like a reflection that caught in the camera funny.
Yes.
However, on the second floor of cell block 12, 2 people are together. I don't remember which 2 people because I was reading a sci-fi recap, and
I think it's Jay and Grant.
I think it's Jane Grant. And
My brain is playing a shot for shot of this episode in my head as we're talking about it.
they see people. They see a full apparition of moving figures, to the point where Jason Hawes,
So yeah, it's Jay and Grant.
normally they do one night of, like every paranormal TV show, they do one night of investigation, and then they go to the people and say, this is what we caught, whatever. Jason was so thrown by this evidence that they ended up doing a second night of investigation at Eastern State because he's like, we have to see if we can debunk this.
Yeah, and they'll do that in bigger places too. Like,
But this was the first
yeah,
one
it's
that this
early,
happened.
so that this is like the first time that they ever went. We're doing 2 nights.
And they were unable to disprove this apparition that they saw. And not only that, both of them saw it, heard the same noises, saw the same thing.
Right.
I believe it was captured on camera. So controversial because they couldn't debunk it,
Right.
and because nobody's really caught anything like it since.
Right. If it's the thing that I'm thinking about, so they see something and then they check the cameras and they see something run
Yeah.
at one of their cameras.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is, I think it's that because that was at a prison and it was on the second floor. And they were on they were either on the first floor and they saw it from the first floor up at the railing, or they were across and saw it across the railing, like across an opening.
Interesting.
So, there is plenty of captured evidence from those 2 shows.
Right.
Obviously, it has been on other shows. Private groups have done their own investigations. Anyway, people do get touched. People hear things. I felt weird vibes, but every time I go to a place like that, I'm way more in tune to vibes than like hearing shit.
Right. And the thing is, it's a prison.
So like
It's not going to feel nice.
Like
No.
it doesn't feel nice anyway. The intent is not to be comfortable in the space. Like
Right.
you're not supposed to be comfortable in the space.
Correct.
So I would love, and also I was with people that are not necessarily there for the haunt aspect. They're there for the history aspect.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to go back with
us.
y'all.
Yeah.
We spent a solid 4+ hours there.
Nice.
And I don't think we saw everything. Like I
Oh,
think
probably not. It's huge.
I think we could have found some of the places that I didn't necessarily see.
Yeah.
They also have like, again, these like little side
Side quests.
quests that they open up at various times throughout the day. So like realistically, I feel like if we were to go on a trip to Philadelphia, we could
Spend
dedicate
all day.
a whole day there. So, how do you guys feel about what you learned about Eastern State?
I think it's pretty neat.
I love the history.
Yeah, the history was really cool, and I really want to go to this museum.
Yeah, I want to go to this museum. I know that we can't do any like ghost hunting. Like we cannot take anything, and we are not going to break that rule because
Right,
we're
no.
good people. But I do want to see if we get any
Weird vibes.
like weird vibes while we're
Yeah.
there.
I took a lot of pictures just on the off chance.
Right.
I
You
would
can
catch
take pictures.
anything. They'll let you take. I don't think they have a flash issue unless you're in one of the art exhibit cells.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
I hope you did not die too loudly into the microphone.
I was pointed that way. Sorry, I don't know what happened.
So I think it would be cool to see if we get any visual
Right.
evidence.
Mm-hmm.
And I would love to do all of the little side quests with y'all.
Yeah.
But that's just
Yeah.
because that's the kind of people we are, to spend forever in a day in
In
a
a
museum
museum,
building.
yeah.
Right. And I do like how many different paranormal shows it was on. That
Yeah.
like that to me is like this place fucking haunted.
Yes.
If this many
spooky.
different places go and get evidence.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
That's-
it's written in a bunch of like haunted books.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
it's also been on not related to paranormal television, but it's also been on Mysteries at the Museum.
Right.
Some other more museum-y side of the stuff I know about Pep actually comes from a bit that I saw on Mysteries at the Museum. But yeah, I'm glad you guys liked it.
I want to know so much more about like who's there, who's haunting it,
Mhm.
who's dead there,
Who's dead there?
which I know they're not like gonna publicize because it's not what their
I probably could have
goal
dug
is.
deeper and found ledger records, but like
you could have dug deeper and found speculation, but
Yeah.
it's fine.
anyway, I got this cool T-shirt. I would show you guys. I'll take a picture of the back of my T-shirt because I'm not gonna try to spin around on camera. 'Cause
Everyone look at Mackenzie's shirt
I'll fall.
right now.
It's a cool shirt.
The back of it has the layout of the prison.
I actually hadn't seen the shirt until just now.
My Eastern State. This is their logo. It's a really cool logo.
That is
Neat.
cool.
We will take a picture of that to
Yeah.
put on the Insta.
If you're interested in looking or visiting, the website is easternstate.org.
Cool.
So, or just type in
Eastern State
Eastern
Penitentiary.
State Penitentiary and it will pop up. If you go during the summertime, they have extended summer night hours. Well, they'll do some like, they have like a little pop-up bar and some other
Oh,
things.
cool.
So some special programming in the summers because it's lighter, longer.
Let's say that like the sun is out for longer time.
And then it wasn't super expensive to go. I think it's that same kind of $20-$25 a person.
Yeah, that's not
pretty good.
crazy.
Which is not, I believe it is a foundation of some kind because it's a National Historic Landmark. So
Right.
any money that they're making is going
Going right
back,
back
to
into
the museum. They have a pretty good gift shop of various, I mean, the t-shirts, obviously they've got hoodies.
I love a gift shop.
They have Pep stuff. Pep. It is from a museum nerd person. I really enjoyed it as a museum space.
Yeah.
Good.
And as a paranormal nerd, it's got the right vibes.
It's got ghosts.
So anyway, I think that's all we need to know about Eastern State Penitentiary. Tune in next week for maybe another haunted location.
Oh, where will we go next?
Little tidbit.
Who knows? Guess we'll find out.
Thanks for listening.
This podcast is for weirdos.
Are you a weirdo?
Thursdays are for the phenomena.